Hello. I'm going to try to get through this video without clearing my throat or coughing. I have to try and catch myself doing it because sometimes I watch back some of these videos and I can't believe how annoying it is me clearing my throat. So I can't imagine how annoying it must be for anyone listening to it. So let's see how I go. I'm looking at a few soundtracks. So I've done this before. I kind of grab just a stack of 4 or 5 from my soundtrack collection and go through them and just look at them and briefly talk about what I know, what I remember from listening to them or the movie itself. So the first one is from the Wes Anderson movie Royal Tenenbaums. I saw this movie probably a couple of years after it came out. I remember hiring it on DVD, and I remember not thinking that highly of it, which I know a lot of people love Wes Anderson, but I feel that sometimes his stuff, it's a little bit, I don't know, Emperor's New Clothes, or maybe it's just me. Maybe it's arrogant for me to say that. Sometimes I feel like people don't want to say that they don't like it because he's kind of considered to be, at least you could say this. He's got a very unique style, and you can pick out a Wes Anderson movie pretty easily. If someone put something on and you didn't know it was one of his, you could, and they say you got to guess. If it was one of his works, you could probably guess that it was his. And a lot of that is, I guess, is the casting, that he does use a lot of the same actors throughout his work. The one of his that I did like was Bottle Rocket, which came out in, I think that was the first. I don't know if it was very first, but it was one of his first. And I remember laughing a lot watching that. But then like Rushmore, this Steve Zissou, the one with in the submarine with Bill Murray, the train one, the Darjeeling Limited. I watched all those, and I had the same feeling for all of them. Just kind of like, hey, yeah, this is good. But then kind of just like at the end of it, having never wanting to go back and watch it again. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it is about them. Um, you can see the cast there. So he uses Bill Murray a lot, the Wilson brothers. Um, Ben Stiller turns up in a few of them, doesn't he? But anyway, I got this for 50 cents, and it's in pretty good condition. Now, the Royal Tenenbaums soundtrack, which is what I'm supposed to be talking about, apparently it's got 2 editions. One was released 2001, which I think was the year it came out, and then they re-released it the second year because of certain rights issues. There was some Rolling Stone songs on there that they ended up having to take off, and which don't feature on this. So you can see here it is a mixture of original songs by artists such as Nico and Paul Simon and Bob Dylan and so on and so forth, and then uh, music taken from the movie, soundtrack movie, scored movie. And the person who did it, you can see his name here, Mark Mothersbaugh, which, if you don't know that name, he is the guy from Devo, the singer. The guy who says "Whip It" and all those other great songs. Actually, I don't know that many Devo songs. I know like "Whip It," "The Girl You Want." Oh, there's actually a few others I do know. I just can't think of it in my head. But how old would you guess the guy from Devo is? Because Devo is kind of one of those bands that you don't really see around that much. And they've always kind of wearing the costumes or the hats or whatever, so I guess you can't really pick an age. Anyway, the guy, the lead singer, and Mark Mothersbaugh, the guy who scored this movie, is 72, which I was quite surprised because it's just, like, obviously they've been around for a long time, so I shouldn't be that surprised, but I was surprised. So actually, I like the music he did for the movie. I like his, so I'd say, so track 1, 7, 10, 12, 14, 17, 2021. So what, 5 or 6 of the numbers there are music taken from the movie itself. And then, yeah, they use a couple of Nico songs and Velvet Underground songs, Stephanie says. Like I said, John Lennon, The Clash, The Ramones, Judy is a Punk, Elliott Smith, Nick Drake. Some pretty great artists there. I was reading just recently that in that first Velvet Underground album, the one, with the Andy Warhol banana painting on the front of it. What does it say? It says the Velvet Underground and Nico, or Nico and the Velvet Underground. The whole purpose of that project was supposed to be a vehicle for Nico, and Lou Reed managed to kind of, I don't know what you want to say. He took control, and she only ended up singing on half the songs on that album, I think. But it was meant to be, Andy Warhol put that band, put them together, but kind of he was the behind it, and he wanted it to be, like a vehicle for Nico, and the Velvet Underground, like Lou Reed and John Cale and so on, would just be her backing band. And Lou Reed wasn't having any of that. Anyway, it's a pretty good soundtrack. I'd say the soundtrack is better than, I feel more positive about the soundtrack than I do about the movie. Next, we have the original Spider-Man. Well, not the original, because I think there was one in the 70s, wasn't there? But one of the reboots, the first kind of one of the new millennium, the one with Tobey Maguire. This came out, would have been about 2001, 2002. And the song that most people, if they have heard any song from this, would be the one that Chad Kroeger did with Josie Scott, Hero, which is track 2 on this. They've also got the theme from Spider-Man. I like that Hero song. From the first time I heard it, I liked it. And I've said before, a lot of people, it's kind of like blasphemy to admit liking anything that Nickelback have something to do with Chad Kroeger being the lead singer of Nickelback. But I like that song, as cheesy as it may be. So this is I was just coughing there. Music from and inspired by the movie. So some of the songs I think you hear in the movie, but a lot of them you don't. I'd say most of them you don't. And when I talked about soundtracks in the few of the videos I've done in the past, I've said that they're always a bit of a mixed bag when it's these kinds of ones where it's just a list of songs and it's not any of the actual, it's not any of Danny Elfman's scoring, original soundtrack work. It's just songs. So like I said, we've got Aerosmith, Jerry Cantrell, Macy Gray, Pete Yorn, Theory of a Dead Man, The Hive, Strokes, Corey Taylor. Oh, I just noticed there. That's another good song I like. The Bother by Corey Taylor. I think it's actually a Stone Sour song. It was released on Stone Sour's debut album, but they credit here as just Corey Taylor. And what you notice with some of these is that some of the bands put songs on here that are, what would you say? They're kind of almost like outtakes or throwaway songs. It's like, the record company says, we need a song to put on the album, onto a soundtrack. And so the band kind of just gives them something they've got lying around. Like in the case of that Sum 41 song, What We're All About. That wasn't, I don't think, on any Sum 41 album. That's the one that I think Kerry King is on it, if it's the one that I'm thinking of. Kerry King does the solo. I'm not getting it confused. And then on the other hand, you've got The Hives. Where is it? Track 11 with Hate to Say I Told You So, which is their most famous song, So it's kind of a mixture, what the bands choose to put on here. I guess bigger bands can get away with just, using their name and then giving a song that's not so famous, whereas bands that are a little bit less famous, certainly the Hives in 2002 weren't that big, They want to put a song that will get people enticed to listening to more of their music. And then there are some bands that I've never heard of, such as Injected or Green Wheel. Maybe they're popular, but I've never heard of them. So yeah, this is just a snapshot, I think, of 2002 era rock music. We got some of that kind of garage rock revival we had with the Strokes and the Hives, but then we got some kind of more, I guess I was going to say, kind of post-grunge, like Theory of a Dead Man and Chad Kroeger. I won't say Jerry Cantrell, because Jerry Cantrell is one of the men of grunge, isn't he? But he kind of stuck around long enough to be kind of associated with post grunge as well. So yeah, that's a pretty good soundtrack, I think. It's got some pretty good songs and some okay songs. Next, remember this TV show in the 90s? I don't think I ever watched a full episode of this. I remember one of my friends, so I would have been, a young teenager when this was like the 90, yeah, okay, so it's 1990, was that early? It was 1990, 92. I remember it being, more 92 to 94-ish. I might actually check that. Okay, it started in 1990 and ran through 1995. Okay, so I would have been really young. I would have been like a kid, not even a teenager when that first started. So I never actually watched a full episode of it, but I'm sure like most people of my age, or maybe even older than me, that they certainly recognize the theme tune. It's played on a kind of was it like an accordion? I'm not sure. It was a TV show set in Alaska, like a radio, like there goes a DJ on a radio station in Alaska, and I think it was like a medical practice or something, like a doctor, or like I said, I never actually watched it. And in the beginning, it was a moose walking through the town that it was set in. This is I've listened through this to a couple of times. I actually mainly bought it for the theme because I like it, and it's really nostalgic when I hear it. I've got Daniel Lanois, Booker T and the MGs, Etta James. Then some people I don't know, like David Schwartz. I've got Nat King Cole, Leonard Skinner. When I listen through to it, it kind of has the feeling of like it's set in Alaska. I guess kind of Alaska has kind of got that, even though you don't really typically associate country music with Alaska, I guess it kind of would, because it is, very rural, and maybe people there gravitate towards that kind of music. But it's kind of a mixed bag there with kind of some older stuff like Nat King Cole and Etta James, and also other bits and pieces. David Schwartz is the guy who he composed and performed the main theme as well as Alaskan Nights and this medley at the end. So I guess that was more the incidental music. Is that the right word? Incidental music? The background music that they would use in the TV show. So yeah, I can't really give an opinion one way or the other on this because I haven't listened through to it enough. But when I listen to it, it's like kind of good background music, like so many soundtracks are. Scooby-Doo 2. Can't even say I've seen Scooby-Doo 1. Or if there's been any after. Are there any of those people famous? Was that when Freddie Prinze Jr., was he in one of these ones, I think? Is that Freddie Prinze Jr.? I thought he had dark hair. Oh, it is Freddie Prinze Jr., and that's Sarah Michelle Gellar. It doesn't look like her, does it? And apparently Seth Green. That's not Seth Green, is it? Apparently Seth Green is in it. None of those people are Seth Green. Maybe he's playing one of the monsters, the voice of the dog or something like that. What is on the soundtrack? We got Simple Plan, New Radicals, You Get What You Give, kind of like their only song that people really know. Of a similar kind of vintage and I guess kind of conceptually one-hit wonder, Harvey Danger with Flagpole Sitter. So two absolutely brilliant late 90s, very pop rock songs. I love both those songs. You Get What You Give and Flagpole Sitter. again, I think so many people my generation who grew up around that time, those songs were just so everywhere that you get kind of hit with this blast of nostalgia whenever you hear them. Also got Rockefeller Skank by Fatboy Slim, which is off. What was the name of the album? The album with a really big guy on the cover. Love Shack by B-52s. And then some bands I don't know. Apache Indian, Big Brothers. Ruben Studdard, he was the winner of American Idol in the early 2000s. I remember, I think that was the only season of American Idol I ever watched from the beginning to the end. Him and that guy Clay, who was like obviously, not that it matters, but he was obviously gay, and I remember he came out like about 4 years after the show ended, and it was like, oh really? Wouldn't have guessed. But I still see him around. I think he's got his own TV show now, Clay, or something. I'm sure I saw him somewhere relatively recently. He still looks very youthful. Still looks kind of like doesn't look like he's aged a lot. Ruben, I don't think I've heard of his name since the end of American Idol. Not that I kept up with the American Idol winners anyway, but anyway, yeah, that's got some okay songs on it. I know that when I looked at this, I would have bought it for the New Radicals and the Flagpole Sitter song. And the last one I'll show is the Juno soundtrack. This was during the era of those kind of movies. They're kind of mid towards the late, like 2004, 5, 6, 7 of whimsical movies. And this guy here, Michael Cera, turned up in a lot of them. And I was saying whimsical, I can't really describe. Yeah, anyway, I don't get into the movie. I saw the movie, and to be honest, I wasn't that big a fan of it. This has got a mixture of stuff. You can see it's got the Kinks on it. Well-Respected Man, great song. It's also got Bell and Sebastian, Sonic Youth, another Bell and Sebastian, Mott the Hoople, Cat Power. And it's also got a lot of stuff by this girl or woman, Kimya Dawson. And these bands, what's her one? Anti Pansy and the Moldy Peaches, they're apparently her projects as well. Not bad. I haven't actually heard of Kimya Dawson. Maybe she's famous and I sound like a Philistine for not knowing. But yeah, apparently at the time, Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, he specifically requested Kimya Dawson and her projects to be featured on it. So yeah. And then the last song is a Michael Cera and Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, they sing a song, Anyone Else But You. So I think it's actually okay. I think, again, maybe the soundtrack is better than the movie. Or maybe I'm just a hater when it comes to a lot of movies. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, just a random selection of things from my substantial soundtrack collection. Thanks for watching.